Pig farming is a dirty job. It requires getting down and dirty and often leaves one smelling like the very animals that they raise. But if anyone would understand the trade, it would be one Robert William Pickton. You see, Pickton was born in late 1949 to a family of pig farmers in British Columbia and was brought into the family business from a very early age. And like many families, life was tough and the hours long. But where most families grow stronger from sharing in the trials and tribulations of running a small farm, the Pickton family was not a normal family by any stretch of the imagination. You see, Robert, alongside his younger brother David, began working on the pig farm at an early age, but the brothers were seen more as unpaid employees than as part of the family. Louise Pickton, the pair's mother, was extremely demanding of the brothers, and it's been suggested that she prioritized her pigs over her own children. And because of this, it seems that the pair of brothers suffered. Robert and David often lacked personal hygiene because of Louise's lack of attention and the long hours that they worked on the farm. Those that knew the boys often said that the pair would come to school in unwashed clothing that still smelled of the pig farm that they worked on, earning Robert and his brother the name Stinky Piggies from classmates. But even knowing all of this, Robert would become extremely close and attached to his mother. This might be due to the fact that while his father Leonard was around, he was incredibly abusive. In one example, during his early teens, Robert used the meager savings that he had to purchase a calf that would quickly turn into his pet and best friend. But one day, after returning home from school, Robert was unable to locate the young cow, only to be told to go look in the family barn. When he did, Robert found his beloved pet slaughtered. Robert would eventually leave home and put the skills he learned on the farm to use. By 14, he picked up work as a butcher's apprentice, and by the age of 21, Robert would return home to work full-time on the family pig farm once again. For a time, things were fairly quiet for the family, but in 1978, Leonard would pass away, and shortly after, Louise would pass away as well. The family would leave the farm to the 3 children to split it how they saw fit. The oldest child, Linda, had no part in the pig farm as her parents had sent her away to live with family at a young age, as they believed the life of a pig farmer was not becoming of a lady. David, the youngest child, wanted nothing to do with the farm, possibly out of the trauma from a hard life. But Robert wanted the farm to continue. Linda moved on with her life, and David, not wanting to leave with nothing, gained control of the family home on the property, with Robert running the farm and living in a nearby trailer in a very remote part of the large property. And from here, a darkness would begin to fall over the farm, and the smell would begin to take on a very human, aroma. Over the following years, the brothers would not employ the same care to the maintenance and upkeep of the home and farm as their parents had. And because of this, the property would begin to fall into disrepair. Many in the community would come to label the property as creepy, but also noted that the brothers were fairly quiet and mostly kept to themselves. But by 1996, the property was in such a sad state that the brothers decided to do something. They would create a nonprofit charity group known as the Piggy Palace Good Times Society. Strange name aside, the goal of the organization was to, as per their application, organize, coordinate, manage, and operate special events, functions, dances, shows, and exhibitions on behalf of service organizations, sports organizations, and other worthy groups. And they would use the unique look and styling of the deteriorating pig farm to make a lot of easy money with their Texas Chainsaw Massacre influenced events. You see, the brothers would often host raves and over-the-top parties in the slaughterhouse that they had converted for such events. These large gatherings became well known in the community and would often feature drugs, local sex workers, as well as visits from the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. But not long after the parties began, Robert would begin to show his darker nature. In 1997, Robert Pickton would be charged with attempted murder of one Wendy Lynn Eistetter. Eistetter herself was a known prostitute in the area and had been working her usual corner one evening when Robert pulled up alongside her in a red pickup truck. Robert inquired about her prices, and when she quoted Robert $40, he offered her $100 if she joined him on his farm for the evening. She agreed, reluctantly, and the pair left back to the pig farm. But once there, Robert took Eistetter into a bedroom, paid her the $100, and she performed her services. But after the two had finished, Eistetter was turned away from Robert, getting herself cleaned up, when she felt him getting close. She spun around to meet him, anticipating his moves, but she was caught by the arm before she could react. Robert slapped handcuffs on her, and the pair began fighting. Eistetter described the encounter in her own words, stating, "I just started fighting him, and then the first thing I remember was a knife on the kitchen table. So as I was fighting him, I was like going backwards so I could get to this knife, and then I reached for the knife, and then I leaped on him. I slit his throat, and then I remember him grabbing a rag and going, 'You fucking bitch, you got me good.' And he put the rag on his neck. And then he had a big long stick, and I remember just picking up plants, everything I could get a hold of, throwing it at him." Eistetter would manage to escape, and both parties would seek medical care for the injuries received during the fight. And Pickton would be arrested and later released on bond. But charges would eventually be dropped as police determined that because Eistetter was a prostitute and a drug addict, any sort of conviction against Robert Pickton would not be able to stick. This would be the first of many missteps made by local police. Months later, the city would sue the brothers over zoning violations, stating that they had neglected the agriculture for which the farm had been zoned. The city stated that altering the barn and other locations on the property in order to hold events was a direct violation. The Picktons would ignore the violations and would even host a large New Year's Eve event. Police would then get involved again in this legal dispute and would inform the brothers that if any future events were held, anyone in attendance would be removed and possibly arrested. The next major event involving the brothers came sometime in 1999, when police again received a tip about the farm and that the brothers were keeping human meat in the freezer. Police did a very cursory investigation and would question Robert about the tip. Robert, for his part, gave police permission to search the home, but police never bothered to carry out any sort of search. Over the course of the next several years, a worker on the property would begin to take notice of strange occurrences. One Bill Hiscox started getting worried when a newspaper report was released that detailed several prostitutes going missing in the area over the span of several years. Mr. Hiscox started putting the pieces together when he noticed that several women who had come to visit the farm would later end up missing. After doing a little digging, Hiscox heard from someone close to the farm that Robert had keepsakes from several women somewhere on the property, and that they included bloody clothing, purses, and other personal items that were kept as so-called trophies. Hiscox went to the police with his concerns, and an investigation was launched. Police carried out a search warrant on the property for potential firearms violations, and the brothers were arrested. But during the search, and using a second warrant, police searched for items related to any of the missing persons cases, and found a number of personal effects in the process. Robert would eventually be charged with multiple counts of murder. By the end of the investigation and excavation of the Pickton farm, Robert's charges would grow to 27 counts of murder in total. Forensic analysis was difficult, and it's quite possible that Robert could have had additional victims. Investigators stated that many of the bodies were left out to rot and decompose, while others were left to the pigs, and some potentially ground up and mixed into the pork that was sold from the Pickton farm. Robert Pickton would eventually go on trial for his crimes and plead not guilty on all counts of murder. The judge in the case decided to split up the charges into one group of 6 charges and another group of 20 to be dealt with at a later trial. His reasoning was that trying to prosecute Pickton on all charges at once would simply be too much for the jury to handle. During the first trial, the jury heard some disturbing accounts regarding the condition of the bodies found on the property. It stated that one body was discovered in a garbage bag, the woman's blood-stained clothes still inside Robert's trailer. Part of a woman's jawbone alongside several teeth, were located next to the farm's slaughterhouse. A .22 caliber handgun was also discovered, which had an adult toy attached to the muzzle. DNA from the sex toy showed Robert's and a victim's profiles. In the end, experts stated that they had found some 80 unidentified DNA profiles on the property. Surprisingly to many, the jury found Robert Pickton not guilty on the 6 counts of first-degree murder, but they did settle on him being guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder. That conviction carries a life sentence without the possibility of parole for at least 10 to 25 years. Pickton's lawyers would appeal the ruling all the way to the Canadian Supreme Court, but lose out on the possibility of a new trial. Still, a second trial on the remaining charges would not move forward. The Crown stated that they were not proceeding because a conviction on the remaining charges could not result in any form of increased sentence for Robert Pickton. Sometime after the end of the trial, the Vancouver Police Department released a statement to the public apologizing to the families of the missing women, saying they wish they would have acted sooner and done a better job handling the information they were provided over the years about Robert Pickton and all that happened inside the Piggy Palace Good Times Society. Thank you for checking out this episode of Case Files. It's been a long time since we've been gone, and we're glad to get back at it with you guys here on YouTube. If you like this content, the best thing you can do is like, comment, and subscribe, as it'll help this channel grow and allow us to create better, longer, and more in-depth episodes for you to enjoy. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you again real soon.